Hey folks, welcome to Pawpaw John's Homestead Channel. If you're just getting here, I appreciate you stopping by. All my subscribers out there, thank you. I hope to see you again. Anyway, back in the garden this week. It's been a busy week, a lot of chores to do, and if you got if you're doing a garden out there, you can probably relate to all the things that need to be done in the garden. Last week, planted my arbors, got those planted, got my pole planted with pole beans. This is the day after I built these trellises. I don't know if any of you out there had the same problem I do. I got looking for just a handful of different types of seed to put in the garden, and I've decided to create a little work for myself. So I'm gonna plant just as much as I can in this one garden spot this year to see just how much produce I create out of this little garden spot. Let's get to planting. Squash here ready to pull. That's the first one. Nothing quite like the satisfaction of getting vegetables out of your own garden. A lot like going to the supermarket and not having to pay for it. Although you know that we all pay for it with all the maintenance and all we have to do in the garden. And just want to hang out with you a little while today and share a few things with you. I've got to prune tomatoes and tie them up, and it's pretty straightforward. There's nothing to it. You can see how these tomatoes are touching the ground here. I'm going to come in and prune all these out, and then I'm going to go in and make another tie to get these up and on this trellis. These are the determinate tomatoes. Once they bloom and make tomatoes, they won't last long. They'll go away. I may pinch those off so they keep growing. And of course, these tomatoes here, they're going to need to be tied up. Not a whole lot, but I want to share with you this week what's going on, and just go over a couple things. Pruning tomatoes, they're pretty straightforward. You'll need a pocket knife or a pair of scissors or trimmers or something to cut your leaves with, and I'm gonna go in and prune these up. I just talked to you before I prune them. I'm gonna go ahead and tie them up again. They need to be pulled up. I've tied these up, and you can see it pulled the leaves up off the ground. There's 3 reasons that I like to prune my tomatoes. The first reason is for air circulation. Come in and you prune out everything that's close to the ground. What that'll do is open this up, and it'll allow air to go through here. It'll allow these leaves to dry off when they're wet. Second reason I do this is for pest control. That's a lot easier to control the pest by putting either organic or some type of deterrent down here around your plants to prevent them from crawling up in your plants and ruining your crop. I'm putting these in a bucket, and I'll go take these, either put them in my compost pile or give them to the chickens. And the chickens love them. I don't know if they should have them, but they love them. These here, I cut these out, pick these up. The other reason for pruning tomatoes, like on this variety here, these are actually cherry tomatoes, and these will be okay. I'll be okay with those growing extra arms out here, but not too many, because I want the growth to grow up. I want the plant to put all the energy in forcing this tomato plant to grow up. It's a indeterminate, so it's going to continue to climb. So I'm going to get these, and I'm going to prune all these lower ones out. These are the suckers. These right here, if you don't clip these out, they will continue to grow, and they'll make another leg, just like there's 2 here, 2 legs here. These will keep growing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach in here, I'm going to clip this one off, and clip this one off, and I'll show you something here. On the other video, I showed you how I rooted some trimmings when I pruned the tomatoes. You can see how tall this plant is. You can prune out a couple more leaves. I would prune this one out, maybe prune this one back. You can take that and put it in a pot and root that, and you'll have a whole brand new tomato plant that's ready to go. This is a quick, easy, cheap way to maintain or multiply your tomatoes in your garden. But the main reason on these is to prevent these plants from doing this here. See this leg here? I'll leave this, but I'll prune it up where it only makes 1 leg. But I want these to climb all the way up. I want these to climb all the way up the trellis, up to this bar. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm just pruning. That's the basics of it, and that's the reason why I do it. Some people don't like to prune their tomatoes, and that's fine. It's preference. There's not a right or wrong way about it, but I have good luck doing this, and I have less disease in my tomatoes by keeping these plants where they can have a little air under them and stay dry. It's especially helpful in wet, rainy climates. If it stays wet and rainy all the time, or if you water your garden every day, this will, by pruning those lower limbs, you'll provide this plant a little bit of air up under this plant where it can dry these leaves, and mold won't set in on your plants, and it'll help prevent the disease. So that's the basics of that. Gonna go ahead and prune everything, get it staked up, and we'll go over the weeding. I've been super aggressive in pruning these. I'll just show you real quick. These here, you see how they're up off the ground. I'll probably prune a little bit more off. These here, I have pruned, and I've already taken one bucket out. Here's another bucket full of prunings, and I've got one more here to finish up. But you can see how aggressive I was. This is not hurting the plants. This will actually encourage growth, and it'll provide plenty of air circulation. I actually had one that had a little bit of disease in it. I went ahead and cut all that out. It's just so you can see how I'm pruning these. See this leaf hanging down? All these lower ones that are hanging way down, trimming these out. Now on your plants, see these new heads coming out here? If you want that to continue growing up, don't prune it out, leave it alone. But if you want to stop it growing here vertically, you can just top that out if you went a little bit too long pruning and have a big stalk here. This stalk here, see how it comes up out of the Y? This is going to continue to grow straight up. This side shoot right here, it's going to make some tomatoes, and it'll put another shoot out and it want to grow up. But I don't want this one to grow up anymore. So I'm going to prune the top out. I'm going to encourage this to grow up. This is nothing but a leaf stem here. I'm going to cut this out. Opens up the area inside of the tomato. And if you have like big leaves hanging down like this, you just want to open it up, get a little airflow. You don't have to cut the whole leaf off. You can go in here and just cut half of it off, or just enough where air can get up under it and circulate. Early season, I generally try to cut everything and train them where they're going straight up. I haven't been on top of pruning them like I should this year. So that's one reason I'm having to go in here and do an aggressive pruning. Anything, this new growth here, this will actually create a new leg if you let it go. So you just prune that off. And in your garden, you can do a chop and drop method. And if that's your method, that's fine. But I found that if I cut these and leave them laying on the ground, bugs tend to get under them and multiply, and it just harbors pests. Okay, so this one here, you see how this stalk is really super big? This is going to keep growing. It's got tomato, it's got a couple of bloom heads up here, but it's going to keep growing. This is going to keep going up. And this right here, if I let that go, it will grow another stalk. So I don't want it to grow another stalk there, because I want a plant to grow up. I want all the energy to go to vertical growth and creating the fruit. you saw how thick these were here, and you see I've pretty much achieved what I was wanting to do, and that is to open up all these legs to where you're getting airflow up under them. That's going to help this plant, and then doing this, it's going to push all the energy and make it go up, and it's going to provide energy, more energy for fruit. There's another one. It grows in the wide of the stem. So, last thing to do is to tie these up, and this chore will be done, and we'll move on to the next. Just want to take a minute to thank all my subscribers out there for subscribing and tuning in. I'll try to provide you with a little information as we go along through the season, maybe help you out in the garden. And if you happen to know a better way to do it, or have a suggestion that may help, you know, somebody that's watching or reading the comments, go ahead and leave a comment. Be glad to hear from you. Wasn't quite long enough. Got a lot coming up this season. Right now the focus is on growing vegetables. Later in the season we'll be putting some up, getting ready for winter, replenishing the pantry. If you haven't subscribed yet, you want to follow along this year, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, and come along with us. And for all my subscribers out there, if there's something in this garden, or if you have a question on anything that I'm doing here on the homestead, just put it down there in the comments and I'll try to address it or make a video on it. Got a few coming up this year. Got some additions I want to make here on the homestead. I'm talking about some animals. All right. When you're tying these, if you'll go around it twice and go above and below the string you're tying to, it'll lock it down pretty good for you. Y'all might have a better method, but that's the way I do it. All right, that chore is done. Didn't take long. Took longer to gather materials than it did to do what I needed to do. So, gotta move on to my favorite part of the garden, and that's weeding. I know it's your favorite too. The weeding part, really simple. Go along. I like to use this here. It's just a rake here. It was missing a handle, so I just made a handle out of a piece of stick, drilled a hole, stuck it in, and that's what I use in the garden. But as you're doing chores or doing things in the garden, you go along, you just reach down, and you see a weed, reach down and pull it, and when you get done, it'll all be done. But I'm gonna cover the weeding. Weeding is the next thing I'd like to cover with you in the garden here today. It's a chore that a lot of people don't like, and it doesn't bother me. It gets a little overwhelming if you go out and your garden is just overrun with grass, and you know you're about to spend 2 or 3 hours of doing something you dislike doing. There's a way that you can do it that makes life a lot simpler, and once you do it for a little while, it becomes second nature, and sometimes you even look forward to getting out there and doing it. So what I'm talking about is taking and going through your garden. See, I can hardly find any weeds in here, but I'm gonna find some. So it's a little hard for me to find weeds in the garden because I do this all the time. So easy way to weed your garden, a way that will make things a lot easier on you and won't make you feel as overwhelmed, is just go through and take blocks of time every day. Go through your garden and spend that time. It can be 15 minutes, it can be 30 minutes, but just once a day, get out in your garden and spend that time, spend that allotted time. Who doesn't have 15 minutes they can spare out of their day to make their life easier? It could be 30 minutes. If you got a bigger garden, spend 30 minutes. If it gets real bad and it seems like it's getting away, spend a little bit more time. But the idea is you spend that allotted time every day in your garden, and by the end of the week, if you added that time up, you just cut out a chore that you would spend 7 or 8 hours in the garden doing all at one time. And the benefit is like this. You go around the garden and you look at my garden stays this way. About 15 minutes every day. Sometimes more. If it rains and can't get out for a couple of days, it may take a little bit more time. But you don't have to do it all at one time. That's the whole idea of it. You just take and spend a few minutes in the garden and focus on one chore that has to be done. You're weeding, 15 minutes. You know, when 15 minutes is up, get up and go out of the garden, go do something else. Work on something else in the garden, something else that has to be done. But the idea is you spend that little bit of time every day, and in the end, you'll be amazed at how your garden will look and how much it'll benefit your plants in your garden. Because that brings us to another thing with weeds. It's important to weed your garden because what the weeds do, they take away the nutrients that can be going to your plants and producing fruit or producing vegetables for you. So if you give your plants the environment that they need to give 100%, they're going to give 100%. And I just wanted to share that little tip with you. I didn't mean to preach. So that's just a little tip that if you take and commit that a little bit of block of time every day, just that little bit of block, in the end of the week, you add all those blocks up and you've just spent that amount of time that you would have had to do in one sitting in your garden, and it makes it for an unpleasant experience. Garden shouldn't be about a have to, it should be about a want to. So it's a few more weeds out here, and I'll come out here this evening and I'll spend a little time, and I'll go around and I'll pull up a couple little weeds like that. But you see what a difference it makes. See what a difference it makes with the tomatoes. I'm going to show you my peas out here. Proud of them this year. The rabbits got in them, and they eat a pretty good many of them, but they come back. And I got some more peas out here that I'd like to show you. You know, gardening is not always about, you know, just success. It's kind of important to keep up with all the failures too. Sometimes it's just bad luck, and this year I just had a little bad luck with some peas I planted. I saw that they weren't growing right, and they were struggling, and I knew I wasn't going to get a good crop off of them this year, so I went ahead and I turned them over, or turned them under, went back and replanted them, and they've been out there about a week. I'm going to walk over there and set the camera up, show them to you, and just going to show you the last little weeding part I have to do. On this next little weeding I'm doing, I'm using the tractor. I'm going to go ahead and plow the peas, and this does a couple things. It cuts the weeds out of the middle of the rows, and it stirs the dirt. It moves the dirt around the peas, and it actually stimulates the peas. And if you do any plowing, or you have a long row that you're hoeing, doing row crop, you may be able to tell the difference. And once you garden for a little while, you'll notice that when you go through with a hoe and break that soil, especially after rain, and there's a little bit of a crust on top of the soil, it stimulates the plant, and you can see the growth. You can actually see the difference. So come on along, I'll show you the peas. I'd like to show you my week-old peas. I've already plowed these one time. There's my peas. Now these are the same type as those, and these here, I'm really proud of these. These have done quite well. Sunflowers over here, these are short sunflowers. They won't get too much size to them. There's the sunflowers, they're coming along. Yeah, I'm gonna plow them one more time, and I'm gonna let that be it for this week. I hope y'all got a little something out of this video. I really appreciate you watching. Give it a big old thumbs up if you got anything out of the video. And remember to subscribe and follow along if you'd like to keep up with what's going on here in the homestead. It's not all about one thing, it's just homesteading in general. Folks, I hope to see you again. That's it, folks. Until next time.